Well, good morning. Just put one of my own movies on in the background to talk about Sunshine Coast train services and the future of them, in other words, and to, I guess, issue a little bit of a warning in a sense to anyone, prospective travellers and so on, who don't know the situation at the present is that there are quite a number of bus services in between the train services. Off-peak in the middle of the day, there's only a train every hour and a half, and there are buses in between, which is okay to a certain degree. But for those who'd like to have train services right through from Brisbane, you need to check the train timetable, and I was surprised, and I'm a bit of an old hand at this, and I found that there was a bit of a problem. Some trains come from Ipswich, some come from Springfield, and some start out of Brisbane. I happened to strike one today that I'm going to have to go into Brisbane and have a half-hour wait to get the train to Landsborough. Anyway, when the Cross River Rail is opened, it's now said to be early 2026, trains will be coming from Brisbane to the Sunshine Coast, which is all fine. I'm quite happy with all of that. And I do expect, in both the cases of the Sunshine Coast and the Gold Coast for that matter, a major improvement in train frequencies. I can only hope that there'll be a train every 15 minutes on the Gold Coast, and there'll be a train every hour on the Sunshine Coast. So I'm only speculating, shall we say, on this, and I'd be happy to have a conversation, a civil and polite discussion, shall we say. And by the way, you can probably hear a train going by in the background because I'm virtually across the road from the East Ipswich, I should say, railway station. Anyway, that is my main thought, shall we say, on that. And I'm also thinking maybe there'll be a doubling up of off-peak services on busy lines like the Ipswich and Caboolture lines and Beenleigh and so on. I believe there'll be a train every 15 minutes, but somebody might like to more or less correct that or confirm that with me. But on a similar subject, let's say, the Cross River Rail route, there's some fantastic forward thinking on that. They're going to they built the stations to take 9-car trains, which of course doesn't operate at the moment. They don't run like that in Brisbane present time, but they could. And of course you would think, well, where exactly could they run? Well, they might want to start out of Maruka and go via the Cross River and come out and maybe terminate at Northgate, as an example. And there'd be a frequent service from both ends going via Central and the current above ground line between both destinations. So that could be something that you would have to say would be a tremendous advance. That's an example of very, very good advanced planning. But for an example of very poor planning, and I don't say in advance, it's backwards, is the so-called Brisbane Metro, which is going to have simple double articulated buses that are disguised to look a little bit like a light rail vehicle, and they are electrically operated. Now there'll be some improvement there. There'll be, a little bit of an improvement over the current situation. But they didn't do the right kind of work and planning that they should have done to future-proof. They keep talking about future-proof, it's not going to. A guided busway where they could have had 5-section vehicles instead of 3, in other words, they could easily have had 5. They'd need to be double-ended, and they could be electric, and they could, of course, be 750 volts overhead in the outer metropolitan areas, but ground fed or battery operated along the busway system is now being done with the I call it the so-called metro. So these are just thoughts, but it's just going to be, in my opinion, I'll make a bold statement on it and say the system is going to be shown to be totally inadequate within about 2 years of it opening, and that's expected to be sometime next year. So anyway, thank you for viewing.